Okay, welcome back. This is video number 3 in the Intro to Unity video series. And we're going to go ahead and learn how to import a building that we created in Maya into Unity. As you can see in the scene, I've gone back during the downtime and gone over some of these edges and just smoothed them out using the smooth tool up here. And I've kind of lessened the depression steepness here and the river area along here, so when we add water it'll make a little bit more sense. And before I actually bring in the water, I'm going to go back in and use a darker dirt color and change this into kind of a rock mud color along the edges, and maybe some sand along here. Okay, so now I'm going to go ahead and bring in the building. First save this. Okay, so I'm going to use Maya, and here again is the city scene that the students put together, and I'm going to bring in this building right here. We converted all those to FBXs and imported them into that scene that you saw there. And here is the individual building, the Empire State Building, with its textures. And this is currently an FBX. And if we take a look over here, it is a Lambert 2. This also works with AI standard surfaces as well. And if I bring up that example there, that's the wrong one. Go ahead and grab a different folder. Okay, and you see here I have, this is a Lambert, which we're looking at right now, and then we have an FBX file that is an AI standard surface. I'm going to import both of those into the scene to show you the process to make sure that the textures come in for both of those. So a little bit different. The Lambert we can set it up so it works automatically, but with the AI standard surface we actually have to apply the texture most of the time. Alright, so from here what we would do is, if this was a regular Maya file, you would select your building, you would go down to export selection, and you would select it to be an FBX export. You would give it a name, and you want to make sure that you export it. Once you have selected FBX export, you want to find the tab that says embedded media, and that's under the larger tab, file type specific options, and you want to check mark right here. You want to make sure you have this check mark. That way the textures go with it. And if we take a look at the file folder, if you open it up back in Maya, if you import it, what will happen is an FBX file in Maya gets this .fbm folder, and inside the .fbm folder it'll place the texture. Okay, so now once it's exported, we can go back into Unity, and it's as simple as just dragging in your material and also your building. So what I'm going to do first is, under the Assets tab, I'm going to create a new folder, because right now I have just scenes, some of my standard assets, all the folders for the stuff we just brought in, but I don't have a folder to drop my prefabs, and I don't have a folder to put my materials in. So I'm going to create a folder, and in that folder I'm going to call prefabs, and then click on assets again, or else it would put the folder in here. I'm going to do another folder, and I'm going to call this one materials. Alright, so now I have those two. I'm going to go ahead and first I want to drag in my texture, and this is a PSD file, so it's a Photoshop file, and I'm going to drop this into my materials. And then if I take a look inside my materials folder, you can see that this is a UV that has been given its texture. Alright, so now with that done, I'm going to select my prefabs folder, and I'm going to bring in both the regular the Empire State Building with the AI standard surfaces, and I'm going to bring in the one with the Lambert. and I'll show you the two processes. Okay, now they're here as prefabs. So one of the things I want to do for my prefabs, I'm going to select my prefab, and over here under the inspector where it says model, I don't want to be able to walk through my buildings. If I don't do this, you can just walk right through it. It's like it doesn't exist. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this little box right here with a check mark, generate colliders, and then I'm going to hit apply. And then I'm going to do the same thing for the other one. I can bring in some other buildings here shortly, but first I want to go through this process to show you the difference, and I'm going to apply that one as well. Alright, so if you take a look at the prefabs, you can see that the one with the Lambert already kind of looks gray, which means that it probably has its textures already on it. I drop it in the scene. It's right here. If I hit W, you can see that it's very small. If I hit F on my keyboard, it brings me in, and it is shorter than the grass. But that's okay, we'll just start with this right here. Now next to it, I'm going to click and drag and bring in the AI standard surface one. And you can see that there's no texture. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to go to my materials, and I'm going to grab and select the textures for it, that PSD file, with the building selected, and you see the orange highlight. And I'm going to drop it on there, and you can see it's just that simple to add your textures back to an object. Okay, so I don't really need two Empire State Buildings in my scene. I'm going to go ahead and delete this one. Excuse me. Now I'm going to scale this one up. So I'm going to select it, hit R on my keyboard, or you can pick the scale tool up here in the top left-hand corner, and I'm going to go ahead and expand it. Zoom out a ways, pull it up. All right, that might be too big, but we'll see. All right, so now we've got it in the scene, and excuse me. So now it's in the scene, and what I'm going to do next is show you how to make it so that we can actually walk around inside the scene and kind of get a feel for the scale. Now we can always change the size of our character as well. But since we have all these trees in here, we may just want to adjust the size of the building first. All right. What I'm going to do is I'm going to look through my standard scenes here. And in the standard assets clicked, up here there's a search button. And what I want is FPS. And when I type in FPS, I get a few choices here that pop in. This is the one I want right here. I want my FPS controller. I'm going to click and drag it. That is a prefab, and the prefab looks like these square boxes sometimes, especially when they have all these assets added to it. And all the things that make it so that our character controller work, to include the scripts that have already been written for us, are included here. And you can see them in the inspector. They're all attached. We have some audio sources for our footsteps, as well as listeners. And the other thing I want to do now is on the main camera, I'm going to delete the main camera because the FPS controller, if I hit the down arrow, first person character, has a camera attached to it already, and we can see that here. Now, by clicking and dragging it into the scene, into the hierarchy here, it puts it back here at 0, 0, 0. What I'm going to do is, I could grab it and I could move it, but I can also show you another way to put the FPS character in. I'm just going to click and drag it and drop it right next to the Empire State Building. F on my keyboard, and I'm going to pull it up a little bit so my capsule is just above the ground. All right, and that's going to kind of set my height. I'm going to pull the Empire State Building up a little bit. I think it's underground too much. And I also put it on top of the grass. Okay. So now with all that done, if I hit the play button, so here's play, pause, and step forward. I'm going to hit the play button, and you hear little footsteps. I look around. It looks like I'm in the scene now. I can walk towards it. The building may still be a little too small, but I also can tell that I have it sticking off the ground just a little bit. So the WASD keys give me the ability to walk in different directions. I can do the same thing with the arrow keys. Space bar is for jump, and if I hold Shift and W, it gives me the ability to run. And you can see the building is hovering off the ground just a little bit. Now, one thing to remember, if you make any changes while you're in the play mode, as soon as you exit the play mode, those changes go away. So if it's a change that you want to make, you do not want to do it while you're in the play mode. To get out of the play mode, you hit escape. Then you get your mouse back, and I can hit the play button and shut everything off. Select the building, and I'm going to go ahead and scale it a little bit bigger. And I got the building just a little bit under the ground right here. If I hit play again, I think my scale's a little bit better now. Probably still a little off. I think those doors are supposed to be much bigger. But let me see what my scale is in comparison to the trees, and that'll kind of give me a feeling if my character is about the right size. Alright, that's not bad. So the building needs to get a little bit bigger, and you can kind of see that it is much taller than all the mountains around it. And this is going to be more of an island type size of scene based off of character size and the size of the building. So now I'm going to stop that, and I'm going to go ahead and show you how to put some water into the scene. And also we're going to put some dirt color down in here. So I'm going to do that first. So I'm going to go back to my terrain, select my terrain, go back to my brush, and I'm going to add another texture in here. And this time I'm going to type in rock. And I'm going to get this kind of grass rocky look here. And I'm also going to add some sand. Let's see if I have a choice of sand in here. I do. Okay. Hit add. So right along the beach area, I want to put some sand. And right now it's going to have some really sharp, crisp edges, but I can use other brushes to come back and change the way the sand looks. So if I select this, I can kind of add some effects like this, and we get that. Okay, and now, just for the sake of time, I am going to go ahead and maybe I'll do this one real quick. All right, it's from a distance. It's not going to be clean, but you can come back and fix it in a bit. It helps to let go occasionally. All right, good enough for now. And so I want to go ahead and show you how to do water. So again, I'm going to come down here to my prefabs. I believe it's under my standard assets, and I'm going to type in water. And I have quite a few choices that come in. I want to use the Water Pro, and there's different types. There's a Water Pro nighttime. There's a Water Pro daytime. Since this is more of a daytime scene, that's what I'm going to use. And I want this water to be around the outside of my island as well. So what I'm going to do is first I'm going to kind of start here, give it the height I want it to have, possibly, and then I need to scale it. And I'm just going to use this same water for the entire scene, so I'm just going to make it bigger. And that's probably good. And you can see I can paint along these outer edges of the island as well. And that's probably okay for the river. I don't know. I'll probably bring it up a little bit. All right. Now I'm going to find my player because I don't want to have to go running all over the place, and push my player over here and see how the lake looks. So we hit play, and now here in my scene I can see water. If I put grass along the edges and things like that, that gives it more detail. But overall, this is kind of the start. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to pause this video. I'm going to add a few more elements, and then I'm going to show you what it looks like with those elements added, and then that should complete this quick intro to kind of how to build a quick scene inside of Unity. So I'm going to go ahead and pause you now, and I'll be back in a minute. Okay, welcome back. What I've done is now I've added the grass, added some trees, added a second building, and just kind of smoothed some things out, painted some things around. As you can see throughout here, we've got grass. And what I ended up having to do was I went into Unity, and I'm going to go ahead and hit the pause there, and I adjusted the tree size because I adjusted my character size. I didn't want my character to be quite so big, so in the scene I wanted to reduce the character size. So I selected my FPS controller here at the top level. I reduced the character by half, and then erased the trees I had, and I went in, and you can, over here on your trees, if you select a tree, you can come in and you can adjust the tree height by moving this slider up and down, and you can also adjust the amount of randomness, how many short trees there are and how tall the tallest tree would be. So how short the shortest and how tall the tallest, and then a randomness in between. So I used that. I reduced the slider size so the trees are shorter. It gave a little bit more realistic size to my character. And then for the grass, you can also do the same thing, except it's not quite as easy. You have to go into Edit Details and then Edit the Grass. And then you can come in here and edit the size that you have. And I still think maybe I should have reduced the width because it looks kind of funny. So I'm going to reduce this to a 0.2 as well. And then reduce the max width to half the size it was before, I believe. And then there's a noise spread here of how much differences there would be allowing to go over and under. And then the max height I also reduced. I'm going to hit apply, and I'm not sure if that's going to be a retro effect, so let's go ahead and take a look, or if I would have to erase the grass I put in and redo it. Nope. It looks like once I make those adjustments, it goes ahead and automatically changes it for me. So now the grass is a little bit better, not quite so tall. If you want it to be almost as tall as your character, you can play around with those numbers. Anyway, that is pretty much it for the scene. Some quick how to do stuff in Unity to be able to add a scene real quick to be able to check out your buildings and see what they look like. Alright, and that's it. If you like this video series, please subscribe to my channel and have a good night.